So with that, I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. So far, I haven't had any technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll keep this going. And go here. Let's see, make sure this works. Okay, it appears that my screen has been shared. Can everybody see okay? Give me a thumbs up. All right, good, great. All right, so as I'm going along, if you have any questions, I'm going to try to monitor chat as best I can, but sometimes that's difficult. So feel free to interrupt at any time, or you can hold it and wait till the end of the session, and I'll answer it. We'll have time for your questions then as well. So, but feel free to interrupt me whenever you need to. So to start with, everyone should have gotten either an email from OpenGov inviting them to the system. It used to be click here, you know, kind of the big spam thing that IT tells you never to answer. And I think they've changed that a little bit since then. It's no longer click here to join the system. So if you haven't gotten that email, let me know and I can try to have them resend that to you. If you can, just know that if it's from opengov.com, that is not junk or spam. So it is safe to click on that as long as it says it's invited you to the Charlottesville budget instance. Then you should be good to go. If you haven't logged in a while and you've forgotten your password, or even the first time around you're having trouble, if you go to the opengov.com and at the top portion of the screen, there'll be log on. You click on that and click on forgot my password. It'll go ahead and help you walk through resetting a password and get you logged on. Your city email address is your, or your whatever email address you're set up under is your log on name. Once you get logged on, it defaults and takes you to the report screen. Again, for most of you, you will have less reports showing. There'll just be these two expenditure and revenue reports, but we can talk about those later when we talk about reporting and using that function at the end. Over here on the left-hand side, you have various icons. We have reporting. We have a triangle that has, I believe it has a dollar sign, or excuse me, a diamond with a dollar sign in it, and that's the budgets. That's where we'll be working most of the time. You click on that, and it'll take you to the budgets. A couple things I wanted to point out down here at the bottom of this. The first is the help button. If you click on the help button, if Christy and I aren't available and you have a question about how to do something or how to figure something out, and it's not specific to how Charlottesville works the budget, or it's just like, how do I add a line item, or how do I create a proposal, how do I do certain things within the system? OpenGov Resource Center is very thorough. They have in the bottom right-hand corner here, they have a live support. You can click on that and it'll bring up a live person and you can do a live chat with them. They have East Coast and West Coast offices, so they're normally open from about 9 o'clock East Coast time all the way until about 1 a.m. East Coast time. So there should always be someone there to help you. Although I will, as I've told other groups, if you're working on the budget at 1 a.m. and you're having an issue and it's not the day before it's due, that's a sign that you need to quit and go to bed and worry about this tomorrow when Chrissy and I can help you or something like that. Just take a break, walk away. They have plenty of articles. There's a whole section on budget and planning, and that's where we work normally. And you can click on that, and there's videos, or you can search, like, how do I add a line item? How do I itemize? How do I whatever? And it'll pull up a list of articles and videos that'll walk you through basically step by step how to do that. It might be look slightly different than the city system, but the mechanics of it are still the same. So that's always a good resource to use. Again, Chrissy and I will always be here to answer questions as best we can. So we'll try to help with that as well. Next thing I want to point out is there's an icon with your initials, or if you're really tech savvy, you can go in and put in a face or whatever you want to do. I point this out for a couple reasons. I'd like you to click on that, and then it'll bring up your profile, click on where it says profile. And two things about this. For those of you who are returning users, there's an email address in there, and it's probably charlottesville.org. Because when most people were put into this system, everything we were under the old .org. So as of right now, everything is still turned on for .org. Haven't been given a definitive time as to when that might go away, but eventually it is going to go away. So what I would ask is go in, click edit, and change the charlottesville.gov to charlottesville.org, or excuse me, Charlottesville. Let's strike that, reverse it. With charlottesville.org to charlottesville.gov, so that we can make sure you're getting the contacts from OpenGov and from anyone related to your budget. Speaking of making sure we're getting contacted properly, down below is notification preferences. There's various things that you can get notifications on. OpenGov defaults to do not email me. That's kind of their default setting. So if it's your first time and you want to get emails about certain things, you need to go in and down at the bottom you can click edit and update your preferences. You can either not get an email immediately when something happens, or include it in a daily digest. It's your preference as to how much you want to get. It's not going to email you or notify you about all the budgets that are happening. It's just those that you're assigned to or attached to. So you don't, if you click email me immediately, you don't have to worry about, if you're in the utilities department, getting the fire department's emails and notifications every time they change something. So, or vice versa. So it's just those budgets that are attached to you. I tend to do a lot of it, most of it in a daily digest. There's a few things I like to get notifications on immediately, but a daily digest will send you an email at the end of the day that says, here are a list of things that have happened, and you can click on it and it'll give you more details. But that's just, make sure that you're being informed when people are, especially if they're leaving comments and stuff that we'll talk about later. You might want to go in and adjust those notification preferences. As I said before, we're going to be working, when we're doing the budgets, we're going to be working in this icon over here on the left that says budgets. So when you click on that, it's going to take you to our budget instance. Eventually. This seems like a great lead in to the fact that I will point out, typically on Fridays, OpenGov is slow. The reason is that is when they're doing all of their software updates, all of their product rollouts. So typically on Friday, especially Friday afternoons, is when they tend to do that. So if you're working on a Friday afternoon, you may run into a little bit slower speeds, but just something to be aware of. So when you come in, there's multiple budget instances that you'll be able to look at. Right now, I've gone to FY22 budget submissions. Check, if you look at the top here, it'll let you know what budget instance you're in. OpenGov is working on something to allow us to set it so that every time someone that's related to the city logs in, they'll go directly to this. But right now, it doesn't do that. So you may want to make sure you're going to the right budget instance and you're not going to a previous year. So if you go up to the top and you're not in the proper budget instance, you can go where it has these three lines or where it says budget and click on that, and you'll get a drop-down listing of all the budgets that you can view, all the budget instances. So we're going to be working in OpenGov training. All your budget submissions will be obviously in FY22 budget submissions. There's the new request, which we'll talk about. I'm going to be working in OpenGov training so that I don't mess up anybody's budget submission right now. But there's also the prior year budget so that you can go back and look at the data and the information that was input in the system from prior years, so that if you're wondering, well, how did this line item get to this amount, you can go back and you can look, and in most cases there should be notes in the various budget instances. You'll be able to see the ones that you have permission to go into. If you're missing something, especially like a prior year or something like that, let me know, and it may just be something on the permissioning side that I need to go in and flip a switch so that you can then go in and see those previous budgets. So we'll go into, and then we're going to go into the training instance. Okay. start, so we'll go across the top here real quick. So we'll talk about create proposals when we get to the new request side. A lot of you have permissions to see all the proposals. So you'll have a big giant list of all these proposals, and especially like if you're something like Parks and Rec or Fire, that's down the list a little bit. An easy way to get that is to type in the first couple digits of your cost center. We've had all of these organized. We have all these proposals organized by the first 3 digits of your cost center, and then the name. So if you were to, if you wanted to do Fire, I could type in 3032, and you got 320 Fire Department, and that way you don't have to scroll all the way down through. It'll just pull it up real quick. Unfortunately, if you were to type in Fire, it doesn't work. You have to kind of know a little bit about the cost center numbers, but it's a quick, easy way to get through. I like to pick on City Council as we do these trainings. And so you find your budget, click on it, and it's going to pull you up to this screen. And this is kind of the main program overview, kind of the proposal detail overview screen. Right here is, we're asking you for a little bit of information for each department, and in some cases, if you have multiple divisions within your proposal, we'll ask you to give a few sentences, paragraph, whatever, about the various divisions. We don't need a master's thesis written in here. That's not necessary because we have a lot of this information, but this is just kind of an overview, especially if there's changes or differences from prior years we need to be aware of. FTE count by the program or the division or the department. Just a brief, how many FTEs do we have? Org chart, we're gonna add that as an attachment. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. ClearPoint scorecard, PDF report, do that as an attachment as well. Every department should have someone who is their ClearPoint point person, the person that's in charge of updating the data. So you need to ask them where we are or where they are with the updating of that data, and make sure you update it as current as you can. We understand there's different reporting periods for different measures, so make sure you get that as up to date as possible, and include that, because we'll talk about the plan would be to talk about those during the departmental meetings. The strategic plan, want to talk about that real quickly. So council is in the middle of hopefully what is just a refresh of the strategic plan. That appears to be the way they're going right now, but you never can tell with city council. They can tend to change their mind and change their direction quite quickly. So we do not enter, the next meetings are not until the end of November and into December. So we're not anticipating that we will have a new strategic plan put together and ready to go in time to inform this budget. When we go in November, we're going to ask council about extending the current plan for the current budget year, and so that when we get it, so that in 22 and beyond, we can start, or 23 budget and beyond, we can start using the new strategic plan once they have had time to think through it thoroughly and get that updated and refreshed appropriately. So for right now, we're still working with the 18 to 20 strategic plan, which was extended for fiscal year 21. There's a link here to the current strategic plan information for the city, and that's in every proposal. And so you can click on that, and there's also information within the budget guidelines. You'll see below there's a couple supporting documents here. I have attached the budget guidelines that were sent out to every proposal, so that way you don't have to search around emails. Where's that email from Ryan? Wait, is that the training one? Is that the instructions? It's attached there, and it'll be there every time you open it up. The other thing is your mobile device inventory. That's not just cell phones, but Mary Kay, that'd be like your tablets that go out in the field that attach to your Verizon or Sprint or whatever system you have, whatever contract you have. So it hasn't changed from previous years as far as the content we're looking for. So you should be able just to update what was done in prior years, potentially some contract costs, because we do ask for some of the cost in there. But, and if there's new devices on it, you would need to update that, but you shouldn't have to go and completely recreate that list because again, it is, you know, we're not asking for any different data than what we asked for last year. And so with these documents, it's just like attaching something to an email. You click add document, and then it's going to pull it up and it's going to ask you what file you want to attach. You just double click on it and it'll add it right to the bottom, just like you would an attachment to an email. So it's fairly simple, pretty easy to do. One thing I forgot to mention earlier was within this information up top where we're asking for some kind of a narrative or numbers or whatever, it's just like operating in a Word system. You just type and it will do whatever you're at. It'll type it in immediately. You can cut and paste from a Word document into there. If you write it, have other people writing it out and sending it to you, you can cut it and paste it, have a little bit of formatting options, but that's pretty simple and easy to use. The OpenGov system saves every 3 to 5 seconds. It's saving real time, so you don't have to worry about typing something and forcing a save to lose the data. As you type, once you pause, you'll notice that the cursor will go away for a second as it's saving it. So it's saving continuously, so you don't have to worry about losing your data. It works on a real-time save. As far as this information as well that we're asking for on the proposal details piece, one thing I would say is you can look at, if you have information from prior years, you don't need to recreate the wheel. You can go back and look at what was input in the prior year and kind of copy and paste and update that where appropriate if you need to, so that you're not having to go in and retype the entire narrative over again. Again, it's like I said, it's just like a Word document as far as like copy and pasting. You know, Control C and Control V, and you're there. So going back to the top, as we're going to move across the top and look, you'll see OpenGov last saved a minute ago. It's going to tell you exactly how long ago it's been saved, when someone's been working in it, and all those things up across the top. Export. If you click on this, it's going to give you a couple different options to export the proposal. You can do it as a PDF document, and it'll put it out as a PDF, or you can export it as a spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet. It's not the cleanest thing to look at or work with because it's how their behind the scenes backend system is set up. It just kind of spits out the raw data that's been put in there. But all the information is there. You may just have to remove some columns and clean up some of the lines to make it so it's not as busy, but it is there. There are some people that feel more comfortable working in Excel or having an Excel backup as you're entering the numbers. If you want to make sure you have an Excel backup, that's the way to do it. After you're done putting in the numbers and you've finished for the day or whenever, and you want to continue to keep those backups so that in case something were to happen, you have that Excel backup documentation. That's a good way to do it. The one thing I will say with the Excel is, as of right now, there is not a quick and easy and simple way to pull it out in Excel, update this sheet, and then re-upload it. It actually would be almost quicker if you would do the Excel, send it to me, and have me update the numbers manually, because it's just not an easy to do that. So that's why we're asking people, don't update it in Excel unless you want to just do that and then manually put the numbers in. Moving across, the next icon you see, this it looks like it has 3 people. If you click on that, that's how you invite people to your proposal. If there's someone that you want to have access to look at your proposal, edit your proposal, any of those kind of things, you can go ahead and just type in their name, and then you can see, you start typing in Chrissy, and Chrissy Hamill comes up, and you can invite her to the city council, and then there's various permissions that they can have as well. There's view only, edit content, which will allow them to edit the narratives and the line items, but it won't allow them to add or remove line items or add worksheets or anything like that. There's the edit all that allows them to create and edit everything. And then I would not, and then the manage, the only difference between manage and edit all is that allows the person to submit the budget to the budget office. So you can, as soon as you do that and you click on invite, and if they should get an email that says an invitation, you've been invited to this proposal, and we'll give them a link. OpenGov does not put a limit on the number of users that you can have within the system. So if there is someone that you want to invite, let us know. So if there is anyone you want to have added as a user to the system, let me know. I can put them in the system. They don't cap our numbers, but as I said, Melissa, this button right here in the top right-hand corner that looks like a bunch of people, that's where you do the invite function. The next button that looks like the speech bubble, that's going to be where you leave comments. So emails are fine if that's your preferred method. However, I will say if you want to have a record of it all in one place, this is one of those things when we were talking about the notifications earlier. I have email me immediately. I'm attached to all the proposals that I have created or managed in there. So you can if you leave a comment for me, you type in the comment or a question or whatever, hit add the comment, it'll shoot me an email, and then I can respond directly underneath of that comment so that you can have the question and the response all in one place, especially if you have multiple people working in there so they can all see that conversation that's happened in that one place and not have to CC a bunch of people on emails and those kind of things. I try to respond as quickly as I can. Same with Chrissy on these, but obviously, we can't respond immediately all the time. But we will get to it as quickly as possible. Now, there's one thing I do want to bring up. We talk about adding comments and emails and all that stuff. If you think, one thing I want to mention is that anything you put in the OpenGov system is FOIAble. Comment just the same as if you were to send it by an email or have it send it as a spreadsheet. All of that is actually FOIAble. It used to be that working budget documents were not considered a FOIAble document. That's the state guidance has been updated in the last couple of years, I guess it was, that this is now FOIAble. And we actually had an instance where with the police department this past year, they did FOIA information directly from the OpenGov system. So just be aware of that as you're inputting the data in there and making comments and those kind of things, that it could be FOIA'd. Moving across, this next button up top is how you submit the proposal. As I said, with OpenGov, it's saving it every few seconds. You don't have to force a save, and you don't have to hit submit to save your work. Only hit that submit button when you're done with all the numbers and all the narrative and all of everything, because once you hit that, it's going to lock the system, going to lock you out of the proposal. I can always go back in and open it back up to you, but I just caution to be careful in case, again, you're working on something and you lock yourself out, and I'm in the middle of something, I can't get to it right away to be able to, or I'm not available to be able to open the proposals back up. It's not difficult for me to open them up whatsoever, so don't worry about that. It's just whether or not Chrissy and I are readily available to, or in the Parks and Rec case, Brian Ray is readily available to open these back up for you. When you're done, as I keep saying, OpenGov saves automatically, but when you're done, you can click the done button and it will force the save. And that way you don't have to worry about, did that get that? Did I miss that? It will force the save there, even though you don't need to. It's the one way that they do have the save function. One of the things we talked about was that we have a chat function and you can invite multiple people. Well, multiple people can be working in the same worksheet at the same time and basically be changing the same numbers at the exact same time. You'll see when there's multiple people working, when you click in there, it'll show you a little icon of someone else's initials, so you'll know that, and when you hover it over, it'll tell you what user is also in that worksheet. But in case things get changed and you're wondering, wait, I thought I changed that, and the other person thought they changed that, this last tab up on the across the top is activity. If you click on that, it's going to show you who's been in. It may not who's been in, who's been doing what to these proposals. As you can see, these are the ones I used for the training. So it says I added an amount for this for the first period, and I added an amount, and it's going to tell you what line items and things that are being added and changed, and who's the one that's been working and changing that stuff. It won't give you the exact numbers that were changed, but it will let you will be able to talk with, at least give you a starting point to figure out, okay, why did this get changed, and why does this look different than what I thought it was? All right, let's see. Any questions so far as we're going through? Okay. All right, so the next tab is the expenses tab. When you click on this, it's going to take you, and if you have multiple cost centers within your proposal, you'll see a listing of each of the cost centers. We have the cost center number and then the name of the cost center listed there for within each proposal. If you only have one cost center, it's just going to have the one sheet there. But every cost center that's associated with your proposal should be listed listed here. If you see something that's missing, let me know, and I can happily add that for you. Or that's probably the easiest way to do that. Or you can click on New Worksheet, and it'll walk you through step by step how to add the cost center. As we go in, once you click on this, it's clicking. Okay, as it opens up. So this is going to be where you're going to input all of your budget change data, all of your description data, all of those things. I want to point out a couple of things. If you start working and the department director changes course on you, or you realize I've done this completely wrong from start to finish, oh, hold on, Mary Kay, thank you very much, because now you've just helped me illustrate what I wanted to show people. If you notice right here, in this top corner, I said if there's multiple people working within a sheet, you'll get that icon. Mary Kay jumped into this sheet on the training side, and you see MK, and it shows that her status is online. Means she's currently working on it. So you'll know if someone else is in the same sheet working on it with you, and that way you can discuss with them, or just say, hey, I'm making a few changes. Hold on a second before you do anything. That's kind of that safeguard that lets you know someone else is in there. If you go across here, reset amounts. This is what I was talking about, where if you realize the department director wants you to go a totally different direction, or you've been doing it wrong the entire time, you can click on reset amounts, and it's going to ask you, are you sure? Because this will permanently remove everything. And you can click on reset or cancel if you were just kidding, and it'll reset all the change amounts. It won't change the base budget. It'll reset all the change amounts that you've made. Normally, I don't show this next button, select line item, but I want to point this out because we had a department director use this last year and erase half of their proposals. This is not a sort or search function. I recommend, if at all possible, do not use the select line items key. This allows you to select all the line items you want to show in the proposal. And last year we had a director come in that thought they were sorting and just wanted to see the personnel cost, and erased all of the data that they had and all the line items that they had listed in the other expenses area. Luckily, they had created, like I said, they had done the export to create Excel backups of everything, so they were able to come back in and redo it. But this was in a department that had probably a half dozen to a dozen cost centers that were affected, and so that's a lot of work to have to go back and recreate. So I would, again, avoid using that button if at all possible. Once you're done entering all the data, the done button, that's again going to force the save, but everything's going to be saved as you move through. Going across the top here, the various columns you have are going to show your actual data up until 2020, which is still the adopted budget. We're waiting on the final actuals from to be waiting on the actuals to be finalized from finance. And once we get that, we'll put the actuals in. For some reason, even though we've selected it multiple times, the FY20 column is not showing up. We're working with OpenGov to get that fixed. So that should, the 21 adopted should show up here shortly. But in pretty much all cases, this column that says base budget, with the exception of the personnel data, which has been updated to reflect current salaries and individuals in these positions, what's in the base budget should reflect exactly what was in your FY21 adopted budget. Again, the 21 adopted column is coming. It's some glitch in the system that they're working on, and they'll get supposed to have that fixed very shortly. Base budget. This is your starting point for all of the FY21 or and FY22 budgets. So you'll notice as of right now, what's in your base budget is what's also showing as the proposed. As you make adjustments to each of these items, the proposed column will update and change. Within the base budget, you'll notice these personnel line items have the dotted line underneath of them. And when you hover over it, it says the base is being overridden by something from our workforce plan. These are the personnel sheets that I've sent out to a lot of you, or to a lot of your departments at this point. Todd, I had updated this for the city manager on my own, so you wouldn't have seen that for your department. You don't need to worry about that. But those personnel sheets that I sent out and the data that came back from those are what's going to be input into the system. If you have a change, as opposed to on the personnel side, as opposed to inputting something here, let me know, because as I change that in we're keeping an updated record of that personnel system. And as I change it in the personnel system, in real time, we'll update your numbers here. So you don't have to worry about changing those. And that way we can keep it all within one spreadsheet to make sure, one personnel spreadsheet to make sure that we're capturing everything. And we have kind of the one-stop shop when we have any questions on personnel. We don't have to bounce back and forth between proposal and the background workforce data and all of that. There are a couple things within the personnel side that we are asking you to update. Temporary salaries. If you have temporary salaries within your budget, we ask you update those. We don't track because we don't budget per the individual temp. In most cases, we don't track that in our workforce system. We're asking the departments to keep track of that and give us that information. Overtime is another thing. Overtime and bonus pay information. If your department is going to have overtime, we ask you update the overtime figures in the personnel side. And then with each of those, there's going to be FICA related to temporary employees, and this department didn't have any overtime. There's also a FICA related to overtime. We ask you to fill those out with the updated figures if you're inputting temporary salaries or overtime. So we'll move on down into the other expenses. So when you're making changes to the numbers, there's 4 ways to adjust the numbers. As you come across, you'll see there's a little drop down here with a dollar sign. It defaults to amount. There's 4, like I said, there's 4 ways to do it. OpenGov defaults it to amount, and so when it's on amount, which is the dollar sign, anything you put in there, typed in 450, is going to be added to what's in the base column. So you can see you have the base column plus what's there. It's going to add that there. Pretty simple, self-explanatory on that. The next way to do it is a percent. So this was really handy if you had, say especially like on the facility side, and you have an annual maintenance contract that has a 3% inflationary built in annually. You can just go in and say, this is a 3% increase, I want a 3% increase, and it'll go ahead and it'll calculate that out for you. So you don't have to do any math, don't have to pull out calculators, anything like that. You can just say, all right, we've been paying $2,000 a year, 3% inflation. There you go. The last one, the next one is 0. If you look at something and you're like, you know what, we're just not going to have this expense this year. You can either do a negative, do amount and then do a negative, or you can click on 0 and it will zero out that line item and make the proposal 0. The last one, I'm going to pick on something that's not even. The last one, sorry, so here we go. So this is telephone charges, that's $929. You look at replacing, you're like, you know what, I know it needs to be $1,200, but I don't want to go and do the math as to what it is. So you click replace, type in 1,200, and it will replace the number you had with the new number you put in there. So those are kind of the 4 ways. Whatever makes the most sense for you can mix and match within each of the line items. It doesn't matter what makes the most sense for each line item. You can do all 4 of them within a proposal. So there's no restrictions on that. Next thing I wanted to talk about is itemization. Well, before we get there, description. So this is where you're going to type in your description and the information we're asking you for as kind of the justifications of your various line items. There's no character limit on this. You just start typing and it'll continue to carry it out all the way across, kind of like when you're typing in an email address or something. And then once you click out of it, when you hover over it, it's going to show you exactly what you typed in. If you type in a lot, eventually it'll drop it down into multiple lines so that you can see what was typed there. But as you notice, once you hover over it, it's going to show you everything that's in that box, not just what you can see there. So yeah, so next we have itemization. This last key or last function here on the right hand side is a little arrow. You click on that and you have 2 items: remove or add an itemized entry. So if you click on add an itemized entry, okay, it's going to drop down below and show you an itemized entry. So this is one where computer software, you can say meeting minutes. Oops, typed that wrong. 15,000. This is for meeting minutes software. Then you click add another item, and then this is going to be, say this is another 500. This will be council scheduling software. So as you can see, every time you add an amount into this, it rolls it up into this final amount and replaces. This will replace whatever was there. So you can add as many items as you want. I mean, there's no limit on the number of items that you can add to this. So you can continue, as I say, you just continuously add items and descriptions and information. And as you add the data, it rolls it up and continuously adds it to the column above. Within itemizations, when you click into a proposal, it's going to be closed up and rolled up like this. So in order to know where there is an itemization, there's 2 ways to look at this. One, on the left-hand side, you'll see this little triangle, caret, whatever you want to call it, that shows that there's more information where you can click on it and drop that down and open it up. The other is when you're looking at this, this number right here, this top number, you'll see I itemized the one above, it's grayed out and it won't let you change that data. So if there's something that's grayed out like this, unless it's completely zeroed out, that's going to let you know that there is an itemization there and that you need to come over here to the left-hand side and click that drop down to see the items that are being rolled up to add to that particular amount. Also over here, so this within the OpenGov system, we have data back to 2015. So there may be some line items that come across that are zeros all the way across right now, but they may have had data in previous years, 2014, 2015, something along those lines. And so if you want to clean it up so that you don't have all these extra line items, the way you can do that is you go over here where you would add, right below add itemized entry, is remove a line from the worksheet. Click on that, it's going to ask you, are you sure? say yes, remove, and then what it'll do is it'll pull that line that doesn't have any data out of the worksheet. One thing I want to say, eventually it will pull it out. This is not a way to zero out an item, because if you delete the line item from the worksheet, it's not going to delete something from the base budget. So if you think this is a way, oh, well, I'll just remove this line item, I don't need it, that's how I'll zero it out. No, that's where I would ask you to use the function over here that says 0, because when you pull that out, it's still gonna, when you submit your proposal, the background data is still gonna be there. And so when I update that information, it's still gonna show that base budget is there. So that can get confusing when we're trying to figure out why what a department thinks is in there is not the amount that's showing up. So I would just caution on that. Let's see, what's next? So we just, eventually it'll remove this line item. Sometimes you have to back out and come back in. Oh, look at that. As soon as I start talking about it, it finally goes ahead and removes that line. So say you're working, you're like, oh, there's a line item I forgot that we need to add. You go down, and this is how you'll add any new line items that may not be already in the proposal. Down across the bottom here, there's a line that says select funds. And then for most of you, this will be the general fund. For Richard and Mary Kay, this will be the various utility funds. But it has a listing of every fund that we have. You can type in, if you know the fund number, you can type it in, and again, it'll sort it down to what you need. So in this case, we're going to do the general fund. The next one is your cost center. It's a select department. That's going to be your cost center. So you start typing in your cost center, and it'll narrow it down so that you know what those cost centers are. You don't have to scroll through. So if you know your cost center, you can just type it in, 100,000. And unfortunately, we would love to have the system set up slightly differently, but you have to do it 4 times. You don't necessarily have to worry about the functional area or the budget area. Those aren't something that you need to worry about what it says, but just know that you have to put in your cost center 3 times across the bottom. And then next will be select expenses. When you click on this, this is going to have every line item that we have within the SAP system. So if it's in SAP, it should show up here. If there's something that's been added within the last 3-5 months that we weren't made aware of, it might not show up in this list. Just let me know. I can very easily add that data into here. But if it's in SAP, it should show up here. And the good thing about this list is you don't have to know what the GL code, what the line item code is. You just have to know what it is, like temporary labor. Oops. So temporary. So if you start typing in the words, it'll let you know. All right, come on. Screen froze. Freight. So so as you start typing in the words, it'll find what it matches up with, and then you can click on it. You click, and then you click on add an item, and it's going to tell you it's adding the item. And then if you can't do it, it's going to give you this orange box. This is one where it's kind of a safeguard to make sure you're not duplicating a line item. This particular line item for is already in this budget. So when you click add an item, it'll pop up for a moment that little orange warning box that says this item's already, we couldn't add this item's already in your proposal, which means you just need to go and search through it a little bit more closely because that's already there. You don't need to add it. If there is an item that's not in there, non-local, no, council's going to have that, sorry. So we'll just do credit card fees. I don't believe this is there. You click add item, it's going to think for a minute. That one's in there too. All right, well, I can't win today. So yeah, there we go. This transit inventory is not gonna be there. You click add an item, and then you'll get a green box here that says your worksheet was updated, and then it will add the row. Initially, it adds it to the bottom of the worksheet, and then after it thinks for a minute, it'll do this, give you a little spinning icon, and then it'll add it in the line in the order of where it would show up in SAP. This is kind of the overview of how to kind of change the numbers, add data work within the proposal. Want to point out revenues. Council does not have any associated directly with them, but if there is any revenues that are associated directly with your department, there will also be a worksheet under the revenues tab, and functionally it operates the exact same way as if you were trying to change something in the expenditure side. It's no different. When you're done with a sheet, like I said, click done to back out one. You click the done here. This will close out that sheet and back it out. And once you're done working completely in the proposal, you can click done and it'll back you out to the main level. Or once you click submit proposal, I'm just going to submit this one so that we can see what it looks like. It's going to tell you the proposal's been submitted, and then when you come back, you'll see under the status, it's going to show you that it's already been submitted. And someone else wouldn't be, normally, if this is something you did and you wouldn't be able to get back in and change anything. But again, you let me know and I can go ahead and change that proposal status back to in progress. All right. Before we go into any questions on any of the editing stuff, before we get into the new request piece of it. All right. New request. There's an FY22 new request file that's been, or instance that's been created as well. So there's a template here with instructions of what we're looking for. Within the budget instructions as well, there's also on page, I believe it's 10 and 11 of the budget instructions. Yeah, it starts on page 10 with new requests and revenue enhancements, and into page 11 on what to do and how to fill that out. I'm stopping here because I want to point out a couple of things. New requests, it's newer and expanded service or significant operational budget increase. If you're increasing your line item by $5,000, or excuse me, $500, $1,000 for office supplies or something like that, that's not a new request. It needs you better be justifying why you need that kind of an increase, like if you're doubling it or something like that, but that doesn't qualify as needing a new request sheet. Newer, expanded, or significantly changed operations, that's what would be in the new request. That being said, for 22, we're looking that any new requests are going to meet the following qualifications or conditions. It needs to be a departmental priority. So that being said, that means we're not expecting 15 new requests, because if you have 15 new requests, those aren't priorities. That's a wish list. So those aren't going to be considered priorities. It needs to be a priority for departmental operations and carrying on the departmental business plan as it's laid out. So again, we're not expecting to even see 5, 10 new requests per department. We're looking at, we talked about this. We're not sure what the revenues are going to do. We're not expecting to see the increases we've seen in previous years with revenue growth and expansion. So so those new requests are going to be a lot more scrutinized. We're not going to have, very many dollars to deal with new requests, if any dollars at all, once we take care of the operational requests that we have no choice over putting in. That being said, if there is an offsetting revenue to support the new request, and or the department's willing to reduce funding in another area to support the new request, that's what we're looking for. Like, hey, I really need to do this, but we're willing to reduce this program, or this is going to bring in this additional revenue to support this request. It's not going to be purely new dollars coming in. And it needs to be directly aligned with our strategic plan. We talked about that earlier. as of right now, it's the 2018-2020 strategic plan. That's the best we have and the most updated thing we have. And I put the efficiency study recommendation there again. It's about 4 or 5 years old now, I believe. And at this point, I think we've exhausted most of the things in the efficiency study. But there may be a few few hangers on that are still out there that we haven't quite done yet. So that's why we allow that as well. Here is what we're looking for within the new request. Again, when you look at the OpenGov proposals, you'll see that this information is within the template there for new requests. So you don't have to refer back to this. You can refer back to this if you would like, but it's also in the template for you to copy and paste in. And we're gonna go over to the new request real quick. So here's the template I've put in with the instructions. The new requests are in the general instructions I've sent out to you. When you go and you click on this template, it's gonna have kind of what we're looking for. And I'm gonna I'll walk us through how to create one of those new requests. You go here and you click create a proposal. And what we're looking for is the cost center number, 101,000. And on Wednesday, council, and then you type in the cost center or department name, city council. And let's see, council was doing puppies on Wednesday, so today everyone's getting kittens for all staff. Just a brief description of what we're looking for. Click create. It'll bring you here. And then, like I said, if you want to go back to the template and instructions, you can just go ahead and highlight, copy the instructions, come back into your proposal, and just paste it in, and there you go. And you have the kind of the format and the layout that we're looking for these. Priority number, you need to tell, especially if there's more than one new request, let us know what priority for the department that request is. So if this is the top priority, you put number 1. Number 2, there should be multiple ones that are labeled as number 1 or number 2 or number 3. Like if there's 5 requests, everyone has a different level in the priority. They can't all be number 1 or all number 3. So make sure that they have a distinct number. Brief description. Again, we're not looking for a giant book on what this new request is. Give us a brief overview of what it is, what it hopes to accomplish. And if you have some preliminary budget dollar figures, that'd be great. Like any estimates you have on what it's going to cost for this new request, put that within the description. New positions, we definitely want to know if there's going to be new positions or new FTEs created by the new request. And then what strategic plan, initiative, efficiency study, recommendation, performance measures, how does this line up with those, just briefly. And then the impact if this isn't approved, just a brief description of what's going to happen if this isn't approved. We'll look at these, and any of them that the budget's development team, which consists of the city manager, deputy city managers, finance staff, budget staff, there's a larger group. Anybody, once that group determines, and ultimately it will be the city manager's determination on what moves forward and what does not. But if there's something that they think is worthy of moving forward, or then we will contact the department and we'll ask you to go in and create a detailed expense breakout like you have for your operational budget, so that we can detail exactly how much is going to be for salaries, how much is going to be benefits, how much is going to be uniforms, or whatever the cost may be, a contractual cost, so that we can have that information in front of us and at that point, that's where we're going to ask you to get kind of that hard dollar amount of this is exactly what it's going to cost us to do this new request. But again, just kind of think of this as if you were doing like a Word document, this is kind of the brief 1-page description of what this new request is in this proposal details piece, and then we'll come back to you if we need more or additional information on any of this. So that's the overview on how to do the stuff within the budget. Now I'm going to talk about reporting briefly. It's a separate function. Over here on the side, there's where it says reports. You can click on that. If anybody isn't interested in the reporting side, this is just kind of how you display the information that you've input and that kind of stuff. Feel free to log off and head out. I will not be offended whatsoever. Looking at this, you'll have two reports. It will show you when the reports were last updated, when the information was last updated. This was done October 3rd, when all this information was finalized. Click on View Report. This is the one that I will ask you. This is the one that's going to have the most updated data, the one that says revenues and expenses. When you click in, it's going to give you an overview of all funds, revenues, and expenses. As you're going through, you can look at this, and any of these bars on these charts or lines that are solid, that is actual data. Anything that is kind of dashed or highlighted like this that has the lines going through it, that is going to be budget only data. And so you'll know which is actuals versus which is budget just by looking at it in that way. You can click on any of the bars in the charts to drill down even further. We click on expenses. It's going to show us, here's what the FY21 adopted budget expenses were. If over here there is filtering mechanisms, you can go and filter it by fund. If we wanted to look at just the general fund, you just click on general fund and it'll filter it down and show you just what the general fund expenses were. And so you have that. You can also go through and go in and look at different categories and different areas of expenses. It's going to show you other personnel, other fixed and contractual. That's how the categories we have it broken out. There's various ways and charts to look at. There's kind of this percentage graph. It looks at if this was 100%, here's how much of it is this amount. It kind of gives you the percentages of your total budget. So you can see, okay, other expenses within the general fund is the largest percentage of our dollars, followed by personnel. This is kind of a stacked chart. I tend to default to this a lot of times when we're having conversations because I feel like this gives a good illustration of trends, and you can look at it and you can say, wow, what's going on? I'm gonna pick a department. We'll pick treasurer. I'll pick the city treasurer just to look at for right now. And so you can drill down within your department, and if you have multiple cost centers within your department, you can see the department roll up as a whole. You can see the individual cost centers, whatever you want to look at within that department and show that broken out. And so you can see how the trend line is. And up here is the visual graphic, but for those of you who like the numbers down below, there is also the number breakout. It will match the chart above. If you've broken it out into larger or smaller categories, it'll show you that as well. But as you can see, it's kind of got this arrow or triangle or whatever you want to call it, like a itemization. And when you click on that, it's gonna open it up and it'll show you all the items that make up the amount under personnel. So it'll show you everything that's in there under salaries and benefits, and same thing for each of these categories. You click them and you can expand them down below. If you're curious, you're like, wow, why did we have this big fluctuation here in other? We went up and down, up and down. You can click on that and it's going to show you, and you just drill down and show the items within that, and you can see, okay, here's where the big fluctuation was, and that's credit card fees. Okay, that seems to be causing the majority of our fluctuation. So you can get a trend even on your particular line items. And then if there's more, like it'll show 12 more, and you can click on that and it'll expand them even more, and you'll have even more breakdown. And again, down below, when you drill down to these items, it's gonna, come on, oops, apparently told me I clicked. Well, that's a good way to show. If you click on something and you're like, oh, all right, there's just the subscriptions, okay. You can click the back button, I'll take you back another level, back to where, actually. And so, but again, down below, it's going to have all the numbers that are behind the charts above. This data is static. It's updated as budgets are submitted. That's why there's no FY22 data in here yet, because no one submitted any 22 budget data yet. So as you're going through and submitting the budget, it will be updated with the 22 data. If you want to use this to have a meeting with staff or with a department head or something like that, let me know. And what we can do is we can submit your budget temporarily, and we'll download a data set and be able to plug it into this visualization so that you can see, okay, to now this is what our budget looks like. And that way, it doesn't take me long to do this, but I do ask you give me a little bit of advance notice because, again, I'm, during this time of the year, during budget season, we're running around with our hair on fire. So a lot of times it's hard for us to get to this immediately, but I will get to this as soon as I can to be able to load this information for you. And that way you can see it, and then I can unlock your budget again for you to continue editing. But at least that'll give you, if you want to have a visualization tool to work with as you're going through your budget, you can let me know about that and we can work on getting that information submitted. This data is static. So as you go through and you play with filters and charts and different information, you don't have to worry about messing up any of the information in your budget submissions while they're attached. It's only once the data is pulled from the budget side and loaded into the reporting side that it works. So there's nothing you can really change over here that's going to mess up or affect your budget submission. So you don't have to worry about that if you want to just go in and play with how to look at various reports and drill down and those kind of things. You can do that. Oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to show you here within this is there is pie charts that will show you your overall amount. However, it's a year-to-year basis, so you can see, all right, well, what is it this year? And then you use the slider, and it'll very easily switch from one year to the next. And then same thing with these budgets. While this is multiple year, if you're saying, you know what, I'm really only concerned about what the last 3 years were worth, or what the last 3 years look like, you go over here to where it says fiscal year, and you can move that slider and you can say, okay, now I only want 2018 through 2021. Let me see that last 4 years. And it will update that, and it'll just show you the trends over the last 4 years. To be honest, how much any of the trends mean right now, because of what we're going through, I'm not sure how much any of that is actually useful for a lot of departments when they're looking at especially particular line items. It may mean something for those operations like even police and fire that are still operating at full speed. You're operating under much different conditions, and so how that plays out, that's how you feel that actually relates. That's up to you, but I would caution on looking at those trends and going, wait a minute, because that's we're under a new normal now and a new set of procedures in most cases, so that might be a little bit dangerous if you're relying too much on past year trends. That's kind of it for my training here today. I don't know let me make sure I haven't missed anything. I think I've got everything here. As always, if you have any questions, let Chrissy and I know. We're going to help out whenever and wherever we can. Thank you. And anybody have any questions before we leave? All right. So I will take this.
You might be, woohoo.
Uh-huh.
Me. Are we going to use the same salaries that we have now, or are we going to update? And are you going to send those out?
Yeah, I'm sending those out. Right. I'm sending those out. So I've got it updated. I just need to. I've been working on updating. I just need to send it to the department. What's in there reflects my updated amounts. I'm going to send it out to the department. So while you're working through your budget, you can verify those amounts. And again, there's change as you have any changes, you can just email them to me and I can input them, and that'll change in the system immediately when I input it in the workforce system. So should be accurate. I say should be based on what I pulled out of SAP. So we all know that sometimes that there's some things that get missed between budget and SAP, or some things that don't get into SAP that should have been changed, or vice versa. So we'll see how they look. But it is, Mary Kay, the next question would be, it was the proof list as of the beginning of this week. So there may be, so if there's anyone that's been added after that, or actually I'll have to double check, it may have been the beginning of last week now that I say that. So if it's someone that's been added since then, or something that's changed with someone's salary in the last couple of weeks, it may not be reflective in what I send out, but it should be pretty up to date.
All right.
All right. And I will, when we're done, we'll convert this recording, and I will send this out to everyone that's on the OpenGov users group, just so that they have another reference to look back through if they need it. But again, you can always call me, use the OpenGov help, email us, and we'll be able to hopefully be able to walk you through whatever you need. All right. Thanks, guys.